Hello, everyone. Welcome to Elementia's reception. We're so happy that you're here. It's been some time since I've been blessed with the opportunity to address a crowd on behalf of Elementia and the incredible creativity and effort it takes to bring this magazine to fruition. My name is Angel Tucker, and I am the Program Department Manager here at the library. I want to start out by welcoming each of you to an evening of celebration, connections, creativity, and community. To the artists and writers published in the magazine, and the hundreds of people who submitted, thank you for your willingness to share your art with us in this space and in this moment of time. To the teen editorial and design team, there are no words that can convey my awe at the beauty of this magazine. Thank you. To my colleagues at Johnson County Library, thank you for your dedication, collaboration, and stewardship of this process. We hope you enjoyed the mingling amongst the art in the stacks and the dining on the delicious treats. If you didn't notice, some of those treats are very much connected to pieces in the magazine. The sense of humanity is such a powerful thing. Every performance this evening, every clap of praise, and every feeling of connection that we feel tonight is an extension of the human experience. And as this evening continues and unfolds, we want to acknowledge that this land has long been home to Indigenous peoples who have stewarded it for generations. We recognize and honor the Kanza, Koskoski, Kickapoo, Osage, Peora, Sioux, and Shawnee tribes, and acknowledge their continued presence, resilience, and cultural contributions. May we engage in this space, this place, with awareness, respect, and a commitment to learning from the past as we create together in this beautiful present. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming our Emcees for this evening. But before we do, be sure to turn off your cell phones or silence them. And with this, please welcome to the stage Sumlina Alam and Hiran Magesh.
Hi everyone, my name is Hiran Magesh and I will be one of your MCs tonight. I served as an editor for this year's edition of Elementia, and I enjoyed every moment. I'm a sophomore at Blue Valley West High School, and my love for art and reading stems from long ago. As I grew, I realized that stories, art, and poetry could have such depth to them, and my interest in that brought me to this wonderful place today, sharing with you a celebration of young artists and writers. I'm super excited to show you all our magazine, and with that, I'll pass it on to Sumlina.
Hello, my name is Sumlina Alam, and I also served as an editor for Elementia, and I'll be emceeing tonight as well. I'm a junior from Blue Valley Northwest High School, and unsurprisingly, I really enjoy creative writing, like short fiction and poetry. This year, I enjoyed reading and going through the fabulous pieces submitted to this year's issue, and I can't wait for y'all to see the magazine. With that, I'll pass it back to Hiran.
Now we will have a series of readings from our very talented artists. I'd like to first introduce Lee Dumler-Montplaisir to read Wistoragic, characterized by lingering feelings of sadness and nostalgia, followed by the recent end of an event. Okay.
Hi. Wistoragic, characterized by lingering sadness and nostalgia following the recent end of a great story or series. Agoraphobia, fear of being forgotten. Snow falls like anything else. It falls gently, coating the earth like a soft blanket. It coats the ground, burying it slowly, letting the ground fade from sight and fade from mind. It encases it and freezes everything under its deadly clasp. No one wants to fall. Falling means being left behind. Falling means being forgotten, being trampled. The snow is always so pretty when it falls, but it gets crushed, turns slowly into gray slush. It's not pretty, not anymore. No one wants it around now. Not now. People want it gone, so they can forget it in the warmth of spring. When the snow falls, it grows cold. It freezes your innards and slows your heart, removes all feeling. All you can feel is anger. Anger at falling. Anger at being trampled, being forgotten. When the ice freezes, it traps everything under it or above it. A wall separating us from deep down or up above, preventing us from seeing through, preventing us from seeing clear. It's as cold up here as down there. It's so cold it blurs your eyes. When it's hard to blink, that's why. Why the world turned blurry. Why black rims your vision. Why the light fades. Why does it matter that you're being forgotten? Why do you care? Why? When the snow falls, it's pretty. When it falls, everyone loves it. It's welcomed and cradled by soft hands. When it's crushed, it turns ugly. No one wants to hold it anymore. Not anymore. That's why it turned bitter. It was forgotten. The ice clouds our eyes, forcing us to let the light fade. When the world turns white, it's soon to be forgotten. So when the snow falls and the world turns white, when the ice crowds and turns your vision blank, that's when you know, and Lord, you'll know it, that you have been forgotten. Habromania, delusions of happiness. When the snow fades and the lilies bloom, the sun shines. It turns the ice into clouds, and you can see it again. The blue of the sky, the taste of the wind in your mouth. You can hear little songs from the sky, melodies drifting on the breeze. It's still cold, but it fades with the coming of the flowers. The dandelions sprout, and the tiny crocuses peek up and sigh. Sighs from the relief of being let go, given the freedom to dance. The clouds turn white and fluffy and float on the breeze. The flowers sway and dance. Trees blossom, little pools of green, tiny sprouts to taste the wind, little promises of hope and hope and hope. The taste of freedom, found everywhere, the rising of the sun and the setting of the moon. Dance with the flowers or sing with the breeze, lie down and let the breeze stroke your cheeks. Let loose all your sorrows, for tomorrow is a new day. Lie down and sleep. Then it grows hot, and the flowers wilt, and the breeze turns dry. The taste of freedom gone, snatched from the air, removed from the sky. It goes dry and dark. Black rims your vision. There's no cool glass of freedom because it's gone. It was taken away before it ever reached your thirsty lips, taken away like everything else that mattered once, taken like the melodies from your throat. When the birds come out to sing, when the flowers dance on the wind, it all goes away. When the clouds turn white and fluffy and float on the breeze, when the dandelions sprout and the crocuses peek up and sigh, it all disappears. It all floats away on the sweet breeze. It all goes away on the height of it all. No time to even fall, no time to try and climb back. When the birds come back and the clouds turn white and fluffy and the flowers dance on the wind, it goes wrong. When the crocuses peek up and sigh and the sweet melodies float to you on the wind, let go. Let go of it all, for it's not there. Let go, for everything will disappear. Let go of the sweet, sweet taste of happiness. It's delusional, for it will never come. Let go, let go, let go. Nova lunosis, the state of relaxation and wonderment experienced while gazing upon the stars. The leaves turn red and gold. They fall like stars. Make a wish, and it will happen. The birds leave their dying songs ringing in your ears. The heat leaves, leaving a pleasant crispness there instead. The clouds turn dark and ominous, and the fat drops of their blood fall down, nourishing the earth. Their calls rumble in your ears. There are waves of despair, of pride, flashing and dancing in the air. Forks of it twirling up the clouds in pure rage. The colors of red and gold, touched with orange, dance atop the trees. Their flaming colors, proud against the sky, like flags of danger, flags of war, flags to burn in the night sky, beacons of pride, of war, of life. The air is filled with wonder as the cold creeps in. The air turns bright. The taste of fire burns everywhere. Slowly, though, the fire falls. It turns cold and dank, leaving you like everyone else, leaving the distant melodies behind. The dankness sinks in, leaving nothing, no color, no place to look but up. And up, up you look, up further than this, further than us, further, farther, a distance away. This is bigger than us, this fight. These emotions are crowding. Look up to the stars. Look up to the heavens. Look up to the gods and goddesses of mythology. Look up to the stories splayed across the heavens. Even they change. Even they have wars to fight. When the air turns crisp and the leaves turn gold, when the birds' songs leave faint melodies, when the clouds turn dark, their blood falling, nourishing the earth, when flags wave against the sky, when the air turns colder and the darkness creeps back, when the ice comes and wraps you in its cold, cold embrace, look up. Look up to the skies. Look past yourself, past everyone else. Look past the worries, the desires, the deaths. Look past it all to the stars in the sky and know it will all come again. Cycle back. This fight, it's bigger than us. This fight, it's not worth our time. A fight against time is no war to wage. Look up to the stars. Feel their stories and taste their sweetness. Look up and know it will all be fine. Look up, look up, look up.
Thank you again to Lee for that beautiful piece. Now we will have Erinn Fent reading Strange Things and Growing Pains.
So, wrote this quite some time ago. I think ending of last school year, actually. And it alludes to a different piece of mine that was also published in this same magazine, Love Like Stardust, I believe, issue 20. This is important to me because the person that I wrote this poem about a year ago, is actually here today. Strange things and growing pains. Never thought I'd be here again, pining again, feeling again, swept up in the moment again, in a smile again. I thought I was over it, over romance, over random chance, over falling into eyes which lingered just too long on mine. But no, turns out that love is young and dumb, and turns out I'm not immune to it. Turns out I'm just as weak as any other poor lost soul. And yeah, this sucks. The way I only see you every other day, it sucks. The way it feels like the whole world falls away, it sucks. The radiance of your smile, the passing of the pain, it sucks. But not because it's bad, not because it hurts, but because I wanted you so much that I compared you to stardust. It sucks because there's something really here. I'm not delusional, you're not ephemeral, I'm not Tantalus, and you are not my folly. We're just two kids who stare at each other just a moment longer than really is needed. Two kids who maybe make excuses to jokingly shake hands. Two kids who tease and prod. One kid who tries so hard to flirt and crashes and burns so badly. One kid who watches me flounder, giggling all the same. One kid who flirts with their friends and is smoother than butter. But when the stakes are high, when it's an expression of interest and not just an ego boost, well, apparently the gods decided I'm only allowed to torment my friends and myself. Because hell if I'll ever pull one off with you. We're just a couple of kids, one tall and loud, one short and quiet. One learning to live with strange things, one learning to deal with the other's strange things. Bouncing off each other, reflecting and refracting, acting and reacting, smiling and laughing. Maybe it's best to take things slow. I'll show you my horses if you show me your goats. But the time is counting down. It's a dagger at my throat. How much longer can the quarter last when I've had you in at least one class for 5 semesters past? And how many moments have I weighted over like broken glass, staring at the shattered memories, shared trauma, and this lesbian romance mess we've both left in our tracks, and thinking, she's not that cute. Well, eat it past me. You were wrong and you knew it. I'll give you that for free. But now's not the time to stay looking back, not the time to be stuck in the vices of the past, when the days are ticking down and I'm not sure if you'll text back. And I need an excuse to message you, not about school, but nothing too personal. Gods, I've written and spoken myself into a corner, and I can't fuck this up because with you, my day's so much warmer. Maybe I should just let it ride, go in and out with the tide, ripples on a lake, a slow give and take. I used to write about stardust, about planetary yearning and the gusto of the gods, of smiles like ambrosia and the wine of the heavens held in momentary touches. But none of that was real, all a dressed-up picture of what I wanted to feel. But you are real, here in front of me, and that's where I want to be, across from you, or next from you, or one row over and one row back, so I can sit and stare at you and catch your backwards glances while I embroider sitting there by you, so I can try and hide my smile but still have it laid bare by you, and let the moments pass while I just sit and feel for you, all that I do, and hope that I can make a move. Do something small and again and once more, and maybe I can try to prove that even though I'm 3 years later than I'd have liked to be, I'm still here for you if you want to be here for me. Then that's great. And if not, that's okay. Because at the end of the year, of the week, of the day, it never was a big deal anyways. And who knows if we'll see each other again next year. The paths we walk are different, though their halls are oh so near. Maybe at the end of the day, at the end of the tunnel, at the end of it all, it was only ever growing pains after all. But still, I think I'll try. I'll shoot my shot a few more times, and eventually I'll just come out with it, say it outright like I'm oh so loath to do. I've never deigned to before, but maybe for you. Because practicing my speech, hell, I'm Portia and you know it. I got on my knees and goddamn, I am so screwed. Not that you're Brutus, but from this angle, you look like an angel, and I think I'd give myself a voluntary wound for you. Use my once commended beauty and pull out all my charms for you. Get all up in arms for you. Be my practice, Brutus, and I can be your Casca. I'll let my hands do the talking next time we hold on just a moment too long. Linger a second too late, till one of us pulls away. And I might be blushing, but I think you are too. And I'm too caught up in the moment to care anyways. Because I've seen and done strange things, but never something quite as wild as these new growing pains.
What a beautiful piece. Next up, we'll have Madeleine Raines present her artist statement.
Just this a little bit. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Madeleine Raines. I was an editor, designer, and featured artist of this year's edition of Elementia. So I got to choose a lot what went into the magazine and how everything looked and all that good jazz, but I'm up here to talk about my works. So the first two pieces I'd like to talk about are here on the screens, An Afternoon Seascape and Seagrass. So what I wanted to show with these two pieces was the idea of connection. So I've grown up here in Kansas my entire life with only grass and fields. However, the 3 times I've been to the ocean, I felt this immense connection to the water. And so that's what I wanted to convey here with these paintings, that you can connect with anyone and anything at any time. That one thing of humanity is that you are inherently connected to the people around you, to the world around you, to who you are and who you were. That everyone and everything is innately tied together. So the third piece of mine that I would like to talk about is called Childhood Memories. So this piece is of a skylight, and through this, I don't know if they have a slide for it or not, but it's of a skylight, and through the skylight you can see the night sky. However, around it are those like glow-in-the-dark stars that are stuck all to the ceiling. So what this piece was to show was how a child might see the world. The child might see the world like the night sky as simply just their ceiling with stickers attached to it. However, the view through the skylight is what you actually see as you grow, that the world is not so simple. That you can tell that the sun has just finished setting as there's still some light around the frame of the skylight, that the clouds are hiding the stars, that they're not always visible, they peek around. The sky is still a little blue. But the thing about childhood memories is that it shows you both of these views at the same time, that you don't lose this part of yourself. Your childhood self doesn't go away, it doesn't die, it stays with you your whole life. That everyone in this room still has that little childhood self that looked at the stickers on their ceilings to help them fall asleep. My final piece that I have featured is called Refraction. I painted this in an artistic rut, so to speak. As you can tell by my pieces that are previously featured, my strength has always been landscapes and architecture. However, I was learning to paint portraits and I had hit this kind of wall. I had painted 2 or 3 black and white portraits, and every single time that I tried to paint skin, I just floundered. I gave up on every project. However, this piece, it was like finding my muse, that it was the subject pushing me through and helping me finish this piece. It is of my very best friend, and as the sunlight goes through the blinds and sets her aglow. It was like the sun itself was admiring her as much as I was, and I couldn't help but stop and stare and recreate it on this canvas. Love is a very common theme I found throughout editing and designing for Elementia, and this was about as much love as I could shove in this tiny little canvas. And I once again want to thank you for coming to this reception. Thank you.
Thank you, Madeleine. We now want to invite Cora Jones to read her artist statement. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Cora. I just wanted to talk about the past and the history of my pink poodle stuffed animal. She was given to me when I was a baby. And when I was growing up, I took her everywhere. Literally, almost any photo that you find of me, she's also in that photo. But as time went on, she would get a little dirty. So one year, my parents decided to give me the idea that I would trade in Pink Poodle for something else for Christmas from Santa. They had already gotten me something all prepared and everything, and I agreed to it. But what they weren't expecting was that the night of Christmas Eve, I wrote a letter to Santa, and I said, "Here's Pink Poodle. I hope you can give her back and fluff her up and make her all brand new." So that kind of shocked my parents. But they went along with it, and a little while afterwards, here came another Pink Poodle. So that tradition kind of lasted for a little while until I figured out the truth about Santa. But I was given a box of all of the ones over the years, and it gave me an idea to create a piece of the ones from when I was really, really young up to the one that I have right now, because she's with me everywhere I go, so she holds all my memories with me.
What a fun piece. Next up, we have our cover artist, Siena Masilionis, presenting her artist statement on AI-lent treatment.
Hello, everyone. It is such a joy to be here. My name is Siena Masilionis, and I am a senior at Blue Valley North High School. My presentation is short and sweet, but I'm very excited to share it with you. I first want to thank the Elementia staff for selecting my piece to be the cover of this 22nd issue of this prestigious magazine. I've been submitting to this magazine for years, and when I saw the email that I was selected for the cover, it was impossible to conceal my excitement. I've always been an artist at heart since I was very little, but I only started touching chalk pastel and realistic styles starting my freshman year of high school. Shifting from a 3-headed dragon doodle to fully rendered portraits was a feat, but I was lucky enough to have an amazing teacher to guide me. Instead of drawing just to create a character, he showed me how powerful art can be when there is a layer of story behind it. This year's theme of humanity is very special to me because recently, I have been creating a portfolio that tackles the harsh realities of technological communication and how some aspects of it hinder human emotions, confidence, and reaction. Issues such as mindless scrolling and cyberbullying has been a common trend as of recently, but AI generation has been the biggest threat of creative people so far. In this piece, I wanted to capture the fear and frustration artists feel with artificial intelligence not only taking over creative fields, but the skills that make us human. The title AI Treatment is a play on the phrase silent treatment because artificial intelligence chooses not to credit an artist once their work has been used. Creativity has always been a key component to humanity, and it's terrifying to see technology easily duplicate our works, with its pieces only being obvious by a few distorted fingers. I was inspired by seeing AI steal the art from creators that I admire, and their styles and hard work appearing in my social media feeds. In my work, I wanted the artist's face to look fearful, but also defiant, because AI can replicate our stories and mimic our works, but it can never take away our drive to create. Thank you so much for recognizing my work.
We'd like to take a moment to recognize the visual artists who helped to make this year's issue of Elementia such a beautiful investigation of our theme. If you contributed a piece of artwork for issue 22, please stand.
Can we give it one more time for our incredible teens and artists? Your words, your voices, your vision, your humanity. This is what Elementia is all about. Every piece tonight reminded us why we make space for artists to speak, feel, and be heard. Can we give it up once more for our incredible teen writers and artists? Their words, their voices, their visions, and humanity represents what elementia is all about. Every piece tonight reminds us why we make space for them to speak, feel, and be heard.
Okay, now we would like to bring up Madeleine Raines to introduce our keynote conversation.
I'm back again. Now we get to continue the conversation with two artists who know exactly how powerful that kind of storytelling can be. Julie Murphy is the #1 New York Times bestselling author of Dumplin', which is turned into a Netflix movie starring Jennifer Aniston and a Kelly Dolly Parton soundtrack. Her books are full of humor, heart, and characters who are proudly themselves, even when the world says they shouldn't be. Natalie C. Parker is the author of the action-packed Seafire trilogy, the founder of Madcap Retreats, and a champion of voices across the young adult writing world. Her stories bring fierce energy and deep emotion, and they never shy away from the truth. Together, Julie and Natalie explore identity, strength, joy, and what it means to be fully human. We are so lucky to have them here tonight and to let us celebrate Elementia's 22nd issue. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Julie Murphy and Natalie C. Parker.
Welcome. Thank you for that introduction. I've actually never heard that exact. Wait, do I push this? Am I supposed to? Okay.
We push.
Sorry.
Love push, baby. Sorry. If given the opportunity, I will quote my lip.
It took.
That one. Oh, it's green now.
Oh.
Now it's on.
Okay.
Now it's on. Okay.
We write things. We don't.
I just want to say these lights are really bright, and
They
I was
are.
already impressed with all of the teens that came up and presented, but now I'm doubly impressed. So
I'm impressed with how little time it took you to make a Twilight joke.
yeah, it just roll out of me. Yeah.
So thank you so much for that introduction. I was going to say I've actually never heard that encapsulation of both of our works before. It was I'm impressed with us.
I know. Me too.
And I'm so excited to be here to be in conversation with my good friend and colleague, Julie Murphy, who is in keeping with the theme of Elementia this season, as far as I know, human,
I am.
and really good with humanity. I
I'm
think
like 15% water, 85% Twilight.
I do believe that is the scientific makeup of human.
Yeah.
But I think that Julie's work across the board really does resonate with the theme of humanity. I mean, there really aren't stories. I mean, there are other stories that are good, but I think that Julie's stories always come through with an enormous sense of heart and connection and community and change and just joy as well as, how hard it is to live in community and to be human sometimes. So we're here to talk about that.
Yeah. It's true.
And when I think about your work, I think about stories that look effortless, that they look so easy. And I think that's the mark of a really beautiful story. When you read the book and you're like, well, of course this book was written. It was meant to exist. It's perfect. It comes through every message and every beat, and we feel all of the emotions. And that is something that has always happened with your work. So I have a couple of questions about
I'm ready.
how you approach writing, in particular in storytelling. But first of all, I want to know, when you were a teenager, when you were in high school, let's be specific, were you already a writer? Did you already know that you wanted to tell stories and what kinds of stories that you wanted to tell? Like, how clear was your vision?
Oh my gosh. My vision was about 90% fog. I definitely was not in tune with the idea of being a writer. Writing to me felt so much like homework that I couldn't possibly imagine myself writing. But I was really creative, and I tried just about every form of creativity before I was so disappointed to find out that writing was the one that resonated the most with me. Just because it felt like I don't know, it felt very solitary. It made me, like I said, just feel like it was going to be homework. But that, of course, was because I had never really tried my hand at writing. But yeah, my high school years really were a very complicated time for me. I wasn't a very good student. I almost didn't graduate high school, and the class that held me back from almost graduating high school was actually English, which is a little mortifying to admit to, considering that English is like my job. I'm like, my name is Ken, and my job is English. So my senior year of high school, the last 2 weeks of school, my English teacher, who was also my theater teacher, theater was really my jam in high school, came up to me, and she and I were very strong-willed women, and turns out we didn't get along very well. And she said, "You are going to fail English," and I was like, "Okay." And she was like, "I don't want you to fail," and I was like, "Oh, thank you." And she was like, "Mainly because I can't spend another year with you." And I was like, "You too." The feeling is mutual, okay? And so she said, "I'm going to give you one last book to read, and you actually have to read it, and you have to write me like a whole long essay about it, discussing the significance of blah, blah, blah." And I was like, well, I guess this is my real chance, so let's do it. And she gave me And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. And for those of you that haven't read And Then There Were None, it's like a short little bite-sized book. And it was the perfect book to give a teenage Julie, because not only was I about to not graduate from high school, my family was in the process of losing our home. And the week I graduated high school, our home was foreclosed on, and we were having to essentially move in the middle of the night into a random rental home that we stumbled into. And this book that she had given me was the only distraction I had during this time. And it was the first time that I found, I won't say the first time, but the first time since being a teenager that I found some sort of connection in storytelling, and I lost myself in storytelling, and it felt like stories could be more than homework. And then I was so disappointed to find out that I actually did have to do homework over this story. But the paper itself was mostly painless to write, and it was because I had found something that I was really excited about and passionate about, and I had a lot to say about that book. But I don't know if I would have been able to fall into that book so easily, if not for feeling so desperate in that moment.
I don't think I remembered that it was an Agatha Christie book that she gave you, but that's really amazing.
Yeah.
When did you actually decide, I'm going to write a novel? And this is a two-part question. When in your life did you decide that you could pursue writing as something more than a hobby, and then actually make the jump to, no, this is the novel, I can pursue this idea, I can turn it into something that the world will want to read from me?
So it did take me a while to find my way to college. The whole part where my family suddenly didn't have any money, and the fact that I had to, if you can tell, I wasn't a very good student, and so I had to figure out how to get to school, how to get to a school that would accept me, and a school where I could really essentially start from the ground up, because I didn't have a lot of the formational basics that I needed to be successful in college. So I worked in the mall for years and years, and then I eventually started going to community college, and then working my way through classes there, and then eventually started going to this great liberal arts school in Texas. But when I did go to school, I had this idea that if I was going to spend all this time and all this money going to school, and because it was a real sacrifice for me. I was working 40 to 50 hours a week, and I was going to school full time. I did not have much of a social life. I was contributing financially at home with my parents, and so going to school is very high stakes for me. And so I had this idea that if I was going to do all of this, I had to go to school for something that felt serious and something that I felt like I could make a career out of. And so I went to school for political science with the intention of becoming a lawyer or a legal librarian, which is a librarian who works sometimes at a law office, sometimes for a corporation, essentially organizing and cataloging their documents and things like that. But this was what I felt like I could do, and I felt like there would be financial payoff for it. And then, this is why I make so many Twilight jokes, my last semester of college, I was taking a class called The Fall of the Russian Empire. Surprise, they unfalled. The Russians are still super around. But anyhow, I was taking this class, and I had started like seeing, oh, thank you, baby girl. I had started seeing advertisements for this little movie you might have heard of called Twilight that was coming out soon. And I had no idea what it was. And my best friend, Ashley, was also like very intrigued by what this was. We were like, did someone say vampires? And so I started reading Twilight, and I started reading it actually in the last row of this class called The Fall of the Russian Empire, taught by one of my very favorite professors of all time, Dr. Salih. Dr. Salih is a very old man from Cyprus who is obsessed with cowboy boots, and he would write his own textbooks for his class and just never update them. So sometimes we'd be like learning from a textbook that was from like 1972 and like no longer relevant. And so my brain was just not in it to win it for this class. Just like also I should mention that like I did make like some, academic strides. I was like, a good student. I had, magna cum whatever. Anyways.
That is one of them.
That's one of them.
Magna cum whatever.
Yeah, the magna cum whatever. Do you get like a little rope for it at graduation?
Yeah. It's like made of Laffy Taffy.
Yeah, does it have like a big W? Whatever. So anyhow, I was in the the last row of this classroom, essentially the backseat. And I started reading Twilight inside the binder of my notebook while I was supposed to be taking notes. And I was obsessed. I was like, what is this brain candy that I can't stop reading? After my senior year of high school, I had started to pick up reading more and more often, but like this was the first time that I felt like literally possessed by a book. And I felt so silly telling people that I was possessed by this book, because at the time I was like this like super hip, like indie movie obsessed girl who like could not just to like give you a better like example, like I was obsessed with NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and Britney Spears in high school. I would never tell anyone because I worked part-time at Hot Topic, and I was like way too cool for school. You know what I mean? Like oh, pop, gross. Like this, it was the times. We could be people of many like varying degrees, but we would not admit that to ourselves in the year of like 2004. Okay?
Can I tell you something really quickly?
Yeah.
Is this? You can hear me, right? Is this on? Did I? Oh, no, I turned it off. It's back on. Apologies. So a few days ago, speaking of Hot Topic, I know, this is great. Actually, my wife's father, who is 70 and recently retired, and so has re-engaged with the world in a way.
He's a former ER doctor.
Yes, in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And he turned to her and said, "Have you heard of Hot Topic?" And we've stared at him for like a solid minute trying to determine if he was being truthful in that moment. And he was like, this is a new thing, right? We were like, oh, no.
No.
It's maybe a couple decades old at this point.
Yeah.
We were alive in the 90s, so.
Oh, man. Oh,
that was your
Matt.
Hot Topic interlude.
Yeah. Okay, so Hot Topic interlude. Anyhow, I was very, a little bit embarrassed about how much I love these books, because they're books about, if you don't know, sparkling vampires. But they were the first books that made me feel like suddenly writing was tangible. Suddenly writing was something that I could do. And this is not like a knock on Stephenie Meyer's writing or her talent or her abilities. But I did like wake up one day and think, okay, if this Mormon mom can have a dream about a sparkling vampire and write a book about it that the whole world could become obsessed with, why can't I just write one story that someone can connect with? And this was a hell of a time to have that realization, because I was like preparing to start applying for law schools and figuring out like what the next few years of my life was gonna look like. And so I actually took a step back from that and started working in libraries once I graduated. And I started working with teens, a lot like yourselves. And one one November during National Novel Writing Month, I was like devising programs with my teens, and they were pretty pissed at me because I had to reschedule anime night, which was always on Wednesdays, to be then for 1 month National Novel Writing Month. And they were like, this is not anime night. We did not sign up for this. We're not gonna write a book. This is stupid. We came to watch anime. And I was like, guys, please, like, you're gonna get me in trouble with my boss. Please, can we just pretend that we did this? And they were like, I'll tell you what, we will participate in National Novel Writing Month if you do it too. And I was like, that's really shiesty of you. Let's do it. And that was when I wrote my first book, was in a library for National Novel Writing Month.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that you were inspired by Twilight. I know a lot of authors, especially in our generation of authors, who were inspired by Twilight, and I'm sure that there are younger authors who have been inspired probably by Twilight, but by other books as well. I think that probably Twilight draws some inspiration from things like Wuthering Heights. We can, talk about how all literature and all art is in conversation with other pieces of art.
A lot of people on the internet will say, truly believe that Twilight is just Roswell fan fiction. For any of you out there who remember Roswell.
I've heard this.
Yeah.
But what I think is so amazing about your work in particular, and speaking about being in community, the way literature provides reflections, provides mirrors and windows. I'm sure you've heard this metaphor. But, so many people were inspired by Twilight feeling like it was accessible. That, this person could do it, and this looks like something I love, one, and that I can potentially do something similar in my own way. And it's opened a lot of doors, and you in particular have included in your storytelling a lot of different kinds of representation for different kinds of people. So would you, when you choose a story idea, do you go into it with this is the mission? I know that I want to tell a story about, this kind of experience, or this kind of queer person, or this kind of fat person, or this kind of BIPOC person. Do you go in with a mission, or do you discover it along the way?
Yeah. Okay, so there was a time years and years ago when I had first discovered what body positivity and fat positivity meant. And this time was very concurrent with discovering who I was as a writer. So there was a time very early on in my career where I suddenly felt like the blindfold had been removed from my eyes, and I realized that we all hated ourselves because a man somewhere decided that we should hate ourselves because it would be easier for them to make money off of us. And I was pissed. So for, a while, especially when I was sitting down to write Dumplin', a lot of what I was writing was out of this absolute rage, and wanting to, just wanting other people to find out too, because it's so much more fun to be angry with other people than it is to be angry by yourself. And so it did start out that way, in a sense. It did start out with this is what I want to talk about. This is what I'm angry about right now. And then Twilight came out, and not Twilight, if you can't tell, it's a really big deal to me. And then Dumplin' came out, and I was really surprised and elated to find out that the story that I had very much written for myself also was written for other people. A lot of other people felt like this story resonated with them. And it wasn't just fat people. If you don't know much about Dumplin', it is about a fat girl in West Texas whose mother has run the town beauty pageant for years and years and years. And it is around the age, she is now around the age that she would be applying to be in this beauty pageant if she were even considered someone who would be in this beauty pageant. And she decides that she's going to enter this beauty pageant just to screw with her mom, essentially. And that's some real Julie Murphy coded motivation there. And so this book came out, and I was just I really did enjoy being by myself and writing this book, and was so just shocked to find out how good it felt to be with other people after this book came out, and to know that I wasn't alone in how I felt, and other people were outraged and looking for community just as much as I was. And so that anger began to fade over time. And instead, I found a lot of joy in what I was writing and the community that it could create. And so now when I sit down to write a book, I'm not sitting here like, I'm going to write a book about the politics of, like preaching virginity or like whatever like random thing I can think of in that moment. I'm really sitting down and thinking about human stories and like what kind of people are living in the circumstances that I'm creating. And because of those circumstances, what kind of challenges do they have? And what do those challenges create as far as character goes, as far as plot goes? So I think that my like point A of storytelling has changed over time, but in my 20s, it was all about anger. It was all about like, damn the man.
Earlier, when we first started, I talked about your stories feeling like they were plucked out, like they're so perfectly constructed and they look easy. And what I meant by that is like, it just looks like the story should have existed for all time. However, I know that writing isn't easy. And your writing is probably has experienced many challenges. So we're going to kind of shift into the craft a little bit, and I want you to talk a little bit about your process. And I know it's probably shifted over time. So what, perhaps when you first started, what did your writing process look like?
Oh man. When I first started, my writing process looked like me sitting at a reference desk in a library with a stack of Post-its and just writing little scenes on Post-its and numbering them and then taking them home and transcribing them at the end of the night. That's what my writing process was, because I was writing on the city's time. Thank you. Thank you so much. I know I'm not the only librarian out there who's done this, just so you know.
Call them out.
I'm not calling them out. I'm just saying, like, solidarity in numbers. So it's definitely changed over time, and it really changes with every single book. But one thing that I have found that works for me in terms of tone and storytelling is I want my books to feel like you're sitting down and having a conversation with a friend. There are some books that you're going to read, and they're some of my favorite books in the world, that are so much more dense than that and so much more full of like just like otherly worlds and like language that you really have to like let yourself feel and let it like simmer so that you can understand the true meaning of it. I don't write like that. I write like you and your best friend are sitting at Olive Garden, like just asking for another refill of breadsticks, and you're just like gushing like over like this latest gossip. Like that is the kind of writing that feels natural for me. I think the exact opposite, actually, of my writing would be your wife, Tessa Grattan.
I knew what you were talking about.
Tessa Grattan is one of my favorite people in the world. She's one of my favorite writers. She also writes for Star Wars. We always get to say she writes for Star Wars, and she's always like, stop telling people I write for Star Wars. People won't leave me alone. And I'm like, but it's so cool.
But like the world knows. It's public news.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can Google it, okay? It's out there. So anyhow, I know how to appreciate other forms of writing, but the writing that like resonates with me and that I get excited about is that kind of writing. So when I sit down and I think about my characters, I think about them like in terms of friends, really. Like if this character were my best friend, what are the things that I know about them? Like what are the things that I will have perceived about them? Because I think that the only person you spend more time thinking about other than yourself is your friends, and trying to understand them and trying to hopefully be a better friend to them and understanding like the things that they're saying even when they don't know how to say them. So yeah, I mean, the process changes every single time. Like right now I'm writing a book, it's in 2 points of view, and I have just looked up, realized I have 30,000 words and there's no chapters. And I just keep randomly switching points of view when I feel like it's time. And I'm making a lot of work for, 2 months, Julie, from now when the book is done, and I have to like go through and figure out like, what are the chapters? What the hell did I just do? But yeah, it looks different. And I have a different writing process for when I co-author, because that has also turned out to be one of my favorite things, is co-writing with other people. And funnily enough, Natalie and I actually have a book that we just co-authored.
Yes, we do.
That we're going to be working on edits for soon. So it's different every time, but I try to be more consistent when it's co-authoring, because it feels like that's the only fair thing to do to my friends, you know?
So you have worked with a number of different editors over the course of your career.
Yeah.
What does that process look like when you get into professional publishing?
Okay, first, can everyone still hear me? Is this still on? Okay, good. Yeah, so the editorial process is really different with everybody, or like every single editor you work with. And I am such a personality, and I'm a little bit of a, I can be a little intimidating, is what I've been told. I don't know if that's true. It's true. Okay, here's like the real short cliff notes that you need to know about me. My dad came out of organized crime and became a used car salesman. So that is the person who I grew up negotiating with in my everyday life in my home. So if I am intimidating, I don't mean to be, but it's because I'm used to being like, this is what I want to do, and my dad being like, this is the counteroffer. And I'm like, counteroffer? I've got a counteroffer for you. So because I have come to learn that I do have this strong personality, whatever that means, I like an editor who can scare me a little bit, because not a lot of people do scare me. And so I've had, the last, oh my gosh, what did I sell my first book, 2011? Long time, many years. The last, 10 plus years of my career, I've worked with various different editors, and there's this one editor that I keep going back to, and I try to work with as often as I can, and her name is Alessandra Balzer, and she is like this tall Italian woman who has like arms that are shaped like Michelle Obama's arms, and there's just something about her that terrifies me in the best way. Like I'm not like a deferential person, but when we go out to eat, I'm like, you can order for me, because like I feel like you can take care of me. You know it's good to eat here, and I'm not that kind of girl. You can ask my spouse. He's around here somewhere, and he could tell you that's not how it goes down. So I found out that I really like that. I like an editor who isn't scared to tell me things that most people would be scared to tell me. A lot of people will say that they like an editor who will ask questions. And I do like an editor who will ask questions, but I also like an editor, like I was just saying, like who is not scared to ask the questions that will like blow things up. You know what I mean? An editor will sometimes ask you small questions to get you to a big change. And I want an editor who is going to be like, okay, we're just going to have to go ahead and like hit this book with like a meteor. I'm like, let's do it. Let's make the crater.
I like the meteor approach. So I do have one or two more questions, but would we like to take some audience questions if there's any time for that?
Do we have time? What time is it?
My watch works 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Let's do a couple of rap questions.
When people ask me what time it is, I will regularly check the naked skin on my arm. So the fact that there was a watch on your arm is very impressive to me. I'm always like, I don't know. It's strawberry tattoo o'clock.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about community, because that has been such a resonant theme with this issue of elementia. Being an author, obviously, you are involved in a lot of different kinds of community. There's a reader community, there's a writer community, and there's the publishing community. There are lots of different levels, and it takes a lot of people to create a career as an author. I had a question in here.
I can talk about community.
I did want you to talk about community, but I wanted to talk about the role community has specifically played in your writing, and your life as an author.
Man,
I mean, that's a big question. So
it is a big question, and I'll be as quick as I can. But I will say that I am very much a no new friends person. I'm a Scorpio. And so when I go into new settings and I enter new aspects of my life, I am prepared to not make friends because it sounds like a lot of work and I don't need any more friends. And then I met Natalie Parker we met in 2012, right?
That's about right.
2012. Yeah. And Natalie does this thing where she likes to organize people into groups and force people to meet each other and get along and trade advice and trade experiences and knowledge. And I think it's the most offensive thing about her. Except that because of Natalie, I have found some of the best friends that I will ever make in my entire life, including Natalie herself. And those people are people who I never thought, they're the kinds of friends and community who I never thought that I would have the opportunity to have. I am very used to being a lone wolf. But Natalie, took me under her wing and was like, guess what? You're going to make friends. If it's the last thing I do, you're going to make friends. So Natalie and I were both publishing around the same time. Our first books were coming out around the same time. And we started sort of like dipping our toes into the world of publishing around the same time. And Natalie would start planning these writing retreats with other authors. And she would, make me go to houses full of strangers and talk to people. But every night at the end of these, every night during these retreats, Natalie would she would have us all sit in a circle, and there was a different question she would ask us every night. And one of those questions was, where do you want to see yourself in a year? Where do you want to see yourself in 5 years? Where do you want to see yourself in 10 years? And it was this awful thing where I was suddenly saying my goals and my hopes and my dreams out loud in front of people who could hold me to those things, who could remind me of the time I said, this is what I want, this is what I dream of. And so not only that, but I was witnessing that for other people too. And it's been really amazing to have all of these friends over the last 10 plus years and to go back and see those little tiny hopes and dreams we had in 2011, 2012, 2013, and see how they felt so huge and impossible to us at the time. But the only way for some of us and for many of us that we were able to realize those dreams was because of those communities that we found very early on. And at the time, it felt like a bunch of bumbling idiots just trying to figure out like how to get a book on shelves and how to make people read our books. But it's turned into so much more. So that small community that felt, just inconsequential is now one of the biggest aspects of my life.
You really make it sound like the beginning of a horror novel, though, when you start.
Yeah.
I mean, and I guess for a lot of Scorpios, it probably is.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
So let's end on advice that you would offer to emerging, aspiring young authors.
Yeah.
And artists.
An artist, yeah. I think that this is very blanket advice. I actually don't think it's just limited to just the arts. But I have 3 pieces of writing advice that I have lived by for the last many years. And the first piece of writing advice I have, and this, again, applies to any kind of art that you do, is no one is going to pay you for your art until you start acting like they should. So you have to decide, I'm going to clock in and out every day as though this is my job. And whether it's 10 minutes I can give to the portrait I'm working on, or 10 minutes I can give to the book I'm working on, or whatever it is that you're working on, you need to treat that time as though someone is paying you for it. Because you're paying yourself for it. Like, you are like paying into your future, and you're paying into your art, your future art one day, as as you're spending time on this project in this moment that might feel like a giant dead end and it might feel impossible to complete, but that is time that your future self is going to have needed. My second piece of advice, and this is a little bit more writing focused, but I think it also applies to museums, and also I do think this also applies to libraries and artists who aren't necessarily writers. But a library is your free education. You can go and get a degree in writing, and I'm sure that you will learn so much and it will be so valuable. But do you know what's super free and fantastic is this whole room full of books. Because a bunch of people out there have written those books, and they have done things incredibly right and incredibly wrong. And you have the opportunity to go through and read as many books as you want and figure out why every single book works for you or why it doesn't. And that is your education in writing. It's reading. It's that simple. And I'm sure for a lot of you who are visual artists, it's in consuming visual art. So that is incredibly important to me. And I also want a lot of you are probably around the time when you are thinking about next steps after high school. And I do want to encourage you that if you are thinking about majoring very specifically in whatever kind of art or writing that you want to do, I really want to encourage you to go out and explore other things as well on top of whatever it is that you're doing, because you need things to create art about. If you live in an echo chamber of artists who are just creating art, it's going to get really tired and really bored. So find other things out there that you're passionate about that fuel the art that you want to create. And my last piece of writing advice, am I allowed to say a swear word? Yes. My last piece of writing advice is that writing advice is bullshit. I used to get so anxious when we would go on these writing retreats and people would sit around and talk about their craft and what they wanted to, all the different processes that they had that made their writing so unique or help them get to the end goal at some point in time. And I hated it. It gave me so much anxiety to listen in detail about all of these different things that work for people. Like, some people do things called 9-boxing. Some people are obsessed with this thing. I'm looking at you.
I know you're talking about me.
Some people are obsessed with this theory on writing called Save the Cat. it's just, there's all these different things out there that people are really into, and I'm so glad they work for other people, but they definitely don't work for me. I have a neurodivergent brain, and it has decided that it is not interested in what has worked for other people. I only want to figure out what's going to work for me. And the more I listen to other people talk about what works for them, the more I feel like I am broken and there is something wrong with me because I can't make those same things work for me. And it took me years and years to figure out that it does not matter how I get to the end, only that I get to the end. And I think that really applies to any creative process. So if you're, especially right now when you're in the trenches of education, if you're going to class, you're taking an art class, you're taking a creative writing class, and you feel so let down by the fact that so many of these things you're learning don't work for you, it doesn't matter. No one's going to sit around and be like, could you please plot the 3-act structure of this story that you just wrote and explain it to me? It doesn't matter. All they want is a good story. So that's my last piece of writing advice, is that everyone who tells you they know how to do it is lying. It's true.
It's very true. It's very true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Natalie.
Yeah,
Thank you all. Thank you.
I would just very quickly like to add that Natalie and I were sitting there, and we've had an opportunity to flip through elementia, and we are just so incredibly moved and impressed by what you all have created. And on top of that, anytime someone has asked either of us to stand up and read in front of a crowd, our first response is, no, thank you. So, I am nervous every time I come and do something, but just the fact that there were some brave human beings that went in front of us really ripped the Band-Aid off. So thank you. But truly, I'm so impressed by what you do, and I'm so thankful for the librarians in your life that make this happen too. So.
Elementia and Johnson County Library would like to thank Julie and Natalie for that thought-provoking conversation. I'm sure we will all remember your words for years to come. We also want to say thank you again to the Johnson County Library Foundation for prioritizing Elementia as a space for young creatives. I, as well as all of us, are forever grateful for the opportunities you have made possible through this magazine. We now want to invite up the county librarian to say a few words.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much both to Julie and Natalie for that conversation. And thank each one of you for being here this evening to celebrate the 21st issue of Elementia. As my introductor said, I'm the county librarian, the library director. My name's Tricia Suellentrop, and I've had the great privilege to have a front row seat to Elementia since its birth. So I've got to hear lots of great writers and see lots of great visual artists, as well as meet them and celebrate them. I'm really proud to be able to support and champion elementia, but also the people that write it, the people that edit it, the people that put it together, as well as the staff that kind of wrap around and support this amazing literary magazine. So to every artist, visual or written, in the room, well done. Keep creating, and don't be a stranger to the library. This magazine, of course, is more than just words on a page and poetry and images. It's really a platform built by teens and built for teens in order to reflect, to challenge your own thoughts, to challenge the world, to challenge the man and the woman and everybody else in between, and to amplify what it means to be human. Your presence here tonight, each one of you, has really helped us all recognize and champion that vision. I don't think we can have enough of that kind of championing. If you have been moved by the words and the images that you've heard tonight or read in the magazine or seen on the screen, it's bravery that you're reacting to, it's brilliance, and it's really bold storytelling. And we invite you, and I implore you, to help us keep this momentum going. A gift to the Library Foundation really supports this work, as well as other work that the foundation does. It supports these artists, and it supports this type of bold storytelling. And it is the kind of programming that changes every single life and brain and heart that encounters it. And so it is very important. Thank you to all of you for believing in the power of those words and ultimately in financially supporting the people and those artists. So thank you very much for attending tonight.
Thank you to the county librarian for her kind words and support. Now for the moment that we've all been waiting for. Elementia's 23rd issue's new theme next year. Next year's theme will be legacy. What is legacy? It is what connects all parts of the time, the past into the present and onward, extending through the future. It is an essential component of what we remember from the past, and of what continues to shape the events of history long after we are gone. Concerning the past, how have lasting traditions impacted you? What ideas have been passed down through the ages? And how will these influences continue to persist into the time ahead? The concept of the future also arrives hand in hand with impermanences. What will remain of us? Will our actions leave a lasting impact on the world? However, most of all, legacy is a mark of the individual, you, who can choose how your legacy can be, as legacy is also the bringer of choice and change. Instead of defining what legacy is, it matters more of what it can be, what it has the potential to grow into, and that is a power that remains with you, our powerful teen voices. Tell us your stories, bring us your visions, and share your legacy with us. Thank you.
My name's Cassidy Coles. On behalf of library staff and our team of teen editors and designers, thank you for coming tonight to share, to listen, to bear witness. I would like to thank a few community partners that make Elementia possible. Thank you to the Johnson County Arts Council, who supports Elementia and creative teens in our community with the Shooting Stars Scholarship. Thanks to Glenn North for providing performance workshops, and to the Library Foundation, particularly donor Henderson Engineers, which helped support tonight's event. We thank you. It is essential that we create, protect, and lift up spaces where teens can use their voices, connect with one another, and investigate the essential need we all have as humans to engage with self-expression. It is more important than ever for those of us who consider ourselves adults to listen to young voices. As we exit this space, you'll find festivities still in motion. If you haven't already, you may purchase books, including Julie Murphy and Natalie C. Parker's books, from our community partner Monstera Books, before the library closes at 8 p.m. Thank you again for coming, and we hope to see you next year.